Regardless of what your topic is, before you begin to develop the report, your work will revolve around three kinds of questions. Questions of possibility, which includes items like, is what you are proposing feasible? Do you have all the required approvals to move forward with these recommendations? Does the institution or a company have the financial and other abilities to move forward with these recommendations? Has or is something already being done regarding this matter? Next are the questions of economic wisdom. Here you will consider, even if the funds are available, will these recommendations be beneficial? If we use all the funds on this project, what about all the other projects? Is there another less expensive option? If something has or is already being done, can we use the current system to add improvements? The third set of questions deal with questions of perception. How will others perceive your recommendations? Will there be a concern about a rise in tuition or cutback in other facilities or options? Will there be any objection to these recommendations? These questions will get your research going. You will dig around to see what the company or institution is already doing about this issue. Why what is being done not working? How can it be improved? Do some more research to see how other universities are dealing with similar situations. Try to find a successful example that you might want to consider for this report. Well, since we are talking about research, let us discuss the research requirements for this assignment. For this report, you are required to use a minimum of 6 sources. Where will these sources come from? As I explained earlier, to show that the problem exists, do an open search to find new articles or reports showing the seriousness of the problem. Cite these reports and articles to show how bad the situation is. Next, explore the PVAMU website and resources to see what is being done regarding the situation you are discussing. Cite examples of what is currently being done and then explain how these measures are not effective enough. When you make your recommendations to improve the situation, do some more research and see what other universities are doing to handle similar situations. If what they are doing is more effective, use them as an example to support your claim. Make sure the examples you share are of something that is working better than what is already being done at your institution. As discussed previously, you will possibly need funds to apply the recommendation you are making. Where will these funds come from? Here too, you can research and see how other schools fund their practices. Use those findings to support your claims. These are the different ways you can incorporate research to your report. Now make sure your report is supported with evidence coming from at least 6 reliable sources. Always credit the source you are borrowing the information from. Add in-text parenthetical citations and attribution tags. What are parenthetical citations? They are the information you provide in the parentheses at the end of the source material, which means a quote, paraphrase, or a summary. In a parenthetical citation, you will add the last name of the author or the title of the piece, followed by a comma, and then the year of publication. Every time you share numeric findings, since you are not the one who collected the original data, credit the source you got the information from. What are attribution tags? Attribution tags are signal phrases you place before you begin to use source material. Usually, the tag provides the credentials of the author or other information that lets your readers know that you are using a credible source. Next, make sure you list all the sources you used in your report in your reference list. Remember, add only those sources to the reference list that you actually used in your report. I will check if you meet this requirement, and points will be deducted if you don't. For more information on how to add in-text citations and reference citations, watch the video I posted on APA documentation style. Now moving back to the elements of a recommendation report. Once you have the answers to the 3 types of questions discussed earlier, you will use the problem-solving model to create your recommendation report. The first step in this model is to identify the problem. What is not working or is not doing as well as it might? What situation presents an opportunity to decrease costs or improve quality? Without a clear statement of your problem, you cannot plan your research. Next, establish criteria for responding to the problem. Think about what are you trying to achieve. Criteria are standards against which you measure your options. Until you establish your criteria, you don't know what your options are. For example, if you are trying to purchase a printer for your office, your criteria might be that it should be cost effective and it should be able to handle a large volume of copies. Once your criteria is set, you will have a better understanding of what you are going to look for or what your options can be. Next, you will determine your options. Options are potential courses of action you can take in responding to a problem. Conduct research to look for what options are available. Gather examples of what other universities are doing. Once you have your options, study each option according to the criteria. Discuss how each example fits your criteria. For example, Virginia Tech offers all-in-one parking system, and the permit cost $360 per year, while the University of Houston has designated parking areas. The parking permit costs $640 per year. And Lone Star Community College offers free parking for students. It would be worth comparing each option and discuss how one might fit your needs. Although free sounds tempting, but that means the university will lose funding. What could be a better option? Here, it will help to revisit your criteria. If your criterion is to make more parking spots available to students, then Virginia Tech might offer you a better solution. If your criterion is to make parking cost-effective for the students, read more into how did Lone Star College make it happen without hurting their budget. Where is their funding coming from? Is this something that will work for your institution? Next, rank all the options by listing the pros and cons. Draw conclusions. Which option will best suit your needs? Now, based on your conclusion, recommend the best course of action. Okay, now that you understand how to develop a recommendation report, let us look at the sample assignment and see how a report is formatted. First, the title page. Just as shown in the example, add your title and then the prepared for and prepared by information Add the date in this exact format, month, day, comma, year. Add a logo. You can add your school's logo. Next, you have the abstract. Start with the title abstract, followed by the title of the report, and prepared by information. The abstract will present a summary of your report, provide background information and the purpose of the report. Discuss methods used in formulating these recommendations. Discuss the recommendations and list the keywords. Next, you have the table of contents. Notice that all the information you provided so far is not included in the table of contents. The numbering starts with the executive summary, which by the way is not required for this assignment. You will start the numbering with the introduction. As shared in the assignment prompt, you are required to write a 6 to 8 pages long report, but this page count will not include the memo, the cover page, the abstract, or the table of contents. The 6 to 8 page count will begin from the introduction. Also, the reference list will not be included in the count. Notice the page numbers before the introduction are numbered using Roman numerals and are placed in the bottom middle of the page. The other parts of the report will be numbered using Arabic numerals. These numbers are typically placed in the top right corner of the document. The introduction of the report will state the purpose of the report. Why was there a need to conduct this study? Share background information. Add a formal statement of the task you were asked to do. Here you can add a brief overview of the methods you used to conduct this report. Briefly state your recommendations. Next, share your research methods. Break your research methods into the different tasks you performed. For example, you can list each university you researched and discuss your findings and analysis. This will make the body of your report and will be presented in several pages. Next, you have the conclusion. Here you will discuss what the best option is and how and why you came up with this conclusion. How will these steps be beneficial? Next, you will list your recommendations. Here you will state what action your reader should take. Lastly, you will have the list of references. List only the sources you actually used in your paper. Use Arial font size 12. Single space everything. Only double space between paragraphs. Notice that the sample report is 18 pages long. You are only writing a 6 to 8 pages long report, but don't forget the elements that are not counted towards this page count. If you think this is a lot, remind yourself that this course is the equivalent of taking English 1133, which requires students to write multiple research-based essays. This is not a lot. After all, this is a college-level writing course.